Hello students, I welcome you to the second part of the governance. So in the first part we have seen the apps and the portals, very different apps and portals, and in this session we will start with the initiatives and the program, and then we will discuss some state government's initiative. Right. So starting with the first one, exercise NCC Yogdan. So what does mean Yogdan? Yogdan means contribution, right? So NCC is contribution. Contribution to what? It's COVID-19, right? So NCC is contribution to the civilian authorities in this present time. That is there. So not very important from prelims point of view, but let us see about NCC. So NCC, you know, B and C certificates they provide in many of the organization, many of the recruitment time they mention. If you have NCC certificate, then they'll give you some other advantages. So what is this? It's a voluntary organization which recruits cadets from the high school, colleges, the university all over the India. It is said to be the largest uniformed youth organization. So NCC cadets have a specific uniform as well. Okay, came into existence in 1948 under the NCC Act and is headquartered in New Delhi. The motto being unity and the discipline, ekta and anusashan. So this is being the similar to the police, in fact, the dress, right? So NCC cadet help local administration in the humanitarian activities during the coronavirus lockdown. In fact, Mr. Prime Minister has also said about this NCC, NSS, that the contribution of these institutional people from belonging to this is very critical in our response to the COVID-19. Next is Krishi Kalyan Abhiyan. So Krishi Kalyan Abhiyan is by the Ministry of Agriculture and the Farmer Welfare. So the idea is to provide an assistance, aid, assistance and advice to the farmers directly. Okay, directly being that is helping them in their income augmentation, right? In helping them in the farming technique, helping them with respect to the access to the various inputs. Okay, different government schemes, for example, soil health card scheme, whether it be Fasal Bima Yojana, these schemes. Okay, so Krishi Kalyan Abhiyan will be undertaken in 25 villages with more than 1,000 population each in the aspirational district. So it is released in the phase wise. So phase 1, phase 2, and currently I think it is in the phase 3. Okay, right. So next one is not very important again. Then next one is Tinker from Home campaign. So again, as we have seen, the collab CAD, one of the current affairs in our apps and portals, similar to this is Tinker from Home campaign. It is under the Atal Tinkering Lab, which is itself under the Atal Innovation Mission. Okay, under the Niti Aayog. Right. So Tinker from Home means in the times of the lockdown. So ATL program, ATL means Atal Tinkering Lab, launched to ensure that the children across the country have access to useful to learn online resources at the time when they are at home. So they have some online resources to keep them occupied. Obviously the idea is to enhance the creativity and innovativeness by encouraging learning through self initiation. What does this self initiation means? Self motivation to initiate the things. For example, no one is forcing them to seek these online resources basically, so it is up to them. So they are provided with the resource and now it is their own urge to use this resource, and when the motivation comes from inside, then it leads to more creativity, isn't it? Next is an appeal by the Ministry of Human Resource Development to crowdsource some ideas for improving the online education system for India. So basically MHRD has said that if you have any significant plans or significant ideas, how can we bridge this digital divide or digital gender divide in the nation? Okay, how can we boost the e-learning in our nation? If you have any specific idea, you can send that to MHRD. So this campaign was under the Padhe Bharat Online campaign by the MHRD. Okay, right. So the next one is hospital empanelment module. So what is these modules? So if the question comes that what are these modules, it is in news with respect to. So these modules are created so as to impanel some private hospital under the Pradhan Mantri this Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. Okay, PMJ. So it is by under the who has launched this particular module, National Health Authority. The idea is obviously so that the private hospitals, because they provide such a good service, if they get impaneled under this service, so the people can also get the patients who are suffering from this serious illness such as cancer, cardiac arrest, diabetes, they can get the proper treatment. So the features being only for temporary period of 3 months empanelment will be there. So it will be done by the state health agency, which is an apex body of state government responsible for implementation of this PMJ. Okay, right. Next is to bring about the more private hospital under the Ayushman Bharat Abhiyan. So government has also had decided to bring the testing and the treatment of the COVID-19 also under the PMJ. However, the modalities under it is still some of the confusion is there, whether the Ayushman Bharat patients will be treated under the COVID-19 as well, because majority of the government services, government hospitals are allowed for the COVID-19 treatment. Next is SATYAM Programme. So SATYAM Programme is not new, it was launched in 2015. So it is first of all, what is the full form of SATYAM? It is science and technology for yoga and meditation. They just want to make abbreviation of everything. So it is a program under the Department of Science and Tech, under the Ministry of Science and Technology, right? Don't have to remember this, Cognitive Science Research Initiative. Now recently it is in the news because the DST has invited the proposals to study appropriate intervention, how this yoga and meditation can help to fight the COVID-19. Does it help? Or obviously it helps to create our or build up our more immunity. So how it can be more done in a more structured way, more institutionalized way, and that will be done through SATYAM Programme. Okay. Remember the ministry. It is not Ministry of Culture but Ministry of Science and Tech. Next is Ujjawala Scheme. Ujjawala Scheme, not Ujjawala Scheme. Ujjawala Scheme, very important scheme. So it is one of the welfare scheme or very important scheme by the Ministry of Women and Child Development. PM, don't confuse with PM Ujjawala Yojana, which is for the by the LPG cylinder giving to the people under the Ministry of Petroleum. Okay. So what is Ujjawala Scheme? So it's a comprehensive scheme for prevention of trafficking and rescue, rehabilitation, reintegration and repatriation of the victims of the commercial sexual exploitation. So the target area is not only the child and the women and child who are the victims, but also who are the vulnerable also. So if the question comes on the Ujjawala Scheme, one topic will be with respect to the target beneficiary. So who can basically set up these Ujjawala homes? So not only the social welfare departments or the women and child welfare departments, state governments, but also the other agencies, because obviously they do not have that kind of a resource to maintain it sustainably. So for example, urban local bodies, public and private trust, voluntary organizations, these organizations can also set up the Ujjawala homes. Now there will be some eligibility condition, but I think that is not too much important for our prelims purposes. Right. So this portion I have taken directly from the Ujjawala Scheme's guideline. This portion can become relevant for you in the mains as well. So basically there are 5 steps to the Ujjawala Yojana. First step is aimed toward the prevention. So what do you do for the prevention? So you form the community vigilance groups, sensitization workshop and the seminar, awareness generation, because many times in ethics or in the essay part or somewhere in GS also the question comes. So you can use all these points, play, puppetry, through other art forms, right? Then what about rescue? At the time of rescue you need information, all the proper resources at the time of rescue, right? Then the rehabilitation part, very important. So setting up of the protective and rehabilitative homes, these are the Ujjawala homes. Then basic amenity and the medical care, then education and the vocational training. More importantly, the income generating activities, so that they again are not exploited for the sexual harassment. Harassment and this abuse. If they get income generating activity, obviously it will lead to the women empowerment. For example, many of the NGOs are working for it. For example, you must have heard of the Prajwala. Okay, Prajwala, very famous. In fact, the head of Prajwala came into the KBC also. Then reintegration. So very important concept of halfway homes, restoration to the family if the families are available, and they accept the victim also, uh, then restoration of the family is the best option. If it is not there, then halfway homes. What are these halfway homes? So these are the homes set up in the community, not an isolated government facility, but set up in the community itself, so that slowly their reintegration can be established. Then finally, the repatriation. What is this repatriation is used for? Repatriation is for the women in the case of the cross border, in the case of the cross border trafficking. Okay, so repatriation of those time. So these are the 5 steps you need to focus on the Ujjawala Yojana. I have discussed in that in detail because some of the pointers you can take for the mains examination. Next is Swamitva scheme. In fact, this is a very good scheme. You can use this scheme as a case study whenever the question on the land reform comes, or the question with respect to the rural transformation comes, right? Rural infrastructure building question comes. You can use this scheme. Very good scheme. So launched on the National Panchayati Raj Day. So basically the scheme is in the pilot mode. It is launched in 6 states to map the rural inhabited lands using the drones and the latest survey methods. Now, one of the problem in the India is the absence of the land records. So who holds this piece of land? So what we say, the final who is the owner of that particular land. In many of the lands are like that. People are telling, people are using it, but finally who is the owner of the land, that is not fixed or not very clear. Because of that, transfer of the land becomes a big issue, especially if one corporate wants to come in or big factory has to be set up. Then at the time of the acquisition, it creates a big problem. So if we have such repository and digital repository, then it becomes easy for the rural infrastructure, rural employment and everything. Okay, so the Prime Minister himself says that Swamitva Yojana will boost the rural economy. Okay, right. So it will ensure the streamlined planning, revenue collection, provide clarity over the property rights. So revenue collection also improves. Why? Then also your rural local body, which is infamous for lack of taxation money, so dependence a lot on the state government. But if they can know which is the property, if they can get the proper tax from their local area, then obviously they are in the rural local body is also empowered. Okay. Then the property card for every property, for every property in the village will be prepared by the state using the accurate measures done by the drone mapping. These cards will be given to the property owners and will be recognized by the Land Revenue Record Department. Okay, so that is why this scheme, as I told you, very important. Next is CARES program. So CARES, you can see overall India's response to the COVID crisis. So PM CARES, that was there, right? We have done the difference between PM CARES versus the PMNRF, disaster relief, national relief funds. So what is this? So basically it is in the news because ADB, that is Asian Development Bank, has signed a loan agreement with the government of India, 1.5 billion loan for government's efforts and initiatives for the COVID-19, right? It will provide budgetary support to the government to mitigate the adverse health and the socio-economic impact of the pandemic. Right, so India signs 1.5 billion loans with the ADB to support India's COVID-19 immediate response. Right, so we are done with the initiatives in the program. Now we'll discuss some state government's initiative. The first one being Operation Shield. Now from the photo itself, you know it's by the Delhi government. Okay, so the Operation Shield, it includes basically if an area is declared as the confinement zone, so how the things will be taken care of. That's the basic idea. So it includes sealing, identification, quarantine the people in the containment area. How, if the containment area is there, how the essential commodities will be provided to the people there, right? How the checking of the other people in that containment area will be done, something like that. So let us see. So SHIELD has a full form, in fact. So sealing of the immediate area surrounding after the geographical mapping, home quarantine of all people in the area, then isolation and tracing of who have been the first and the second contact, very important. Then essential supply of the community is ensured, local sanitization by the authorities, and then door-to-door health checkup of the area. And this is how, in fact, Delhi has been doing really well in the present time, whatever the information is coming. Right. Next is initiative by the Telangana government. Okay, so it is an initiative that is consumer plus farmer initiative that is called Confarm, including both two. In fact, you can use this as a case study. In fact, you can see how Confarm is leading the way in Telangana. Okay, so what is this basically? So for, let's say, this is a farmer and this is a consumer. Okay, so farmer needs some money at the time of the sowing, so the consumer can provide them money at the time of the sowing. So they'll get some money so that they don't have to depend upon any other player, money lender or other, those who charge exorbitant prices. And at the time when the product is there, the farmer sells the product directly to the consumer. So consumer gets the things at a very cheap price. Okay, and the farmer gets the proper money from the consumer. So they remove all the middleman, and this is being tried in the Telangana. So unique initiative of the Telangana government to ensure food availability to the consumer and the secure income for the farmers. So it started in 2018 by the Deccan Development Society and the Disha Collective, community-based organization. You can use these community-based organizations as well, very important. You see, from where these case study come, just one second. From where these case studies, the so-called case study and this many main enrichment programs are there, from where these ideas come. These idea comes from there only. So while preparation of the prelims, if you can make a repository of these things, that's all it takes, right? So you can use this case study while talking about the farmers in agriculture in GS3. You can use this case study in the governance. You can use this case study in the GS1 women group or something like that, right? So one case study into multiple papers, because ultimately no evaluator will be same, right? So under this, let us discuss the concrete details. So under this, the consumers support a group of farmers in the beginning of a farming season. Just one second. 12,500 rupees per acre is given for the farming needs, and in the return at the time of the harvest, as I told you, the consumer get the product according to the value they invest, leaving the middleman out. So they get the cheap products. Next is, you can see from Gujarat Chief Minister. So the scheme is Sujalam Sufalam Jal Sanchay Abhiyan. So the idea is to, from the name itself, Jal Sanchay means water conservation program is there. So it was launched in 2018. So the idea is to deepen the water bodies in the state to increase the storage of the rainwater during the time of scarcity. So for example, this is the storage, but many a time of storage, the bottom is filled up by the different sediments. So you have to, if you clear this up, so in the rainy time it will fill it up, and it can be used in the time of the, when the rain is not there, when the need more need is there in summertime and all. Okay, so it involves cleaning and desilting of the river fronts, sprucing up of the irrigation canal. What does sprucing means? So basically fitting of the railway canals. So for example, this is a canal, this is the water going, and these are the concrete reinforcement. So these should be very proper, otherwise this water will take away, corrode these walls, and the sediment again it will fill. So sprucing of the irrigation canal, then also involving the deepening of the lakes, tanks and reservoir. So this is that. So the drives runs on the public-private partnership mode, very important. So 60% of the funds are given by the government, right? And 40% of the fund will be given by the people. So when the people give fund, so when the community gives fund, if direct participation of community is there, then the success of any program increases. Why? Right? In fact, that has been recommended by the Niti Aayog while suggesting that what improvement should be done in the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. So they said that if a portion of the infrastructure cost of a toilet is given by the community members, then the acceptance or the accountability or the continued uses of these toilets will be there, right? And this is being same done in the this particular scheme. So we are done with our session. Let's quickly revise. We started with the exercise NCC Yogdan, that is a contribution of the NCC to the COVID-19 crisis, civilian authority. Then we discussed Krishi Kalyan Abhiyan by Ministry of Agriculture and Farmer Welfare. Then we discussed Tinker from Home campaign by the under the Atal Tinkering Lab under the Atal Innovation Mission. Then we discussed Bharat Padhe Online campaign for crowdsourcing of idea for improving the online education system. Then we discussed hospital empanelment module under the Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. Then we discussed the SATYAM program, SATYAM by the Department of the Science and Tech, Ministry of Science and Tech. Then we discussed Ujjawala Scheme. We have discussed different components of the Ujjawala Scheme under the Ministry of Women and Child Development. Okay. Then we discussed Swamitwa Scheme, that is the land record by the drones and mapping in the rural areas. Then CARES program and the India signing $1.5 billion loans with the ADB. Then Operation Shield by the Delhi government, right? Operation Shield in the containment zone. Then Consumer Farmer Initiative by Telangana government. Then finally Sujalam Suflam Jal Sanchay Abhiyan in the Gujarat. Okay. So with this, we will finish our session. We are done with the governance part 2. Right. In the part 3, we have some flagship schemes, 1 or 2, and we will revise the COVID related initiatives. Okay. So with this, we finish our session. See you in the next class, everyone. Keep reading, keep revising. Some of the students are also seeing the trend analysis session. So some of them are uploaded. So even if it will take less of your time, but I'll still suggest just see the trend analysis session once, so that while preparation of a prelims exam, these things keep in your mind, because from prelims to the mains, you will get very less time. Be sure of it. So during a prelims time also, prepare yourself prepare yourself for the mains as well. Okay. Thank you everyone. See you in the next class. Bye bye.